1970 Ford F250. It's two-wheel drive. It's got power steering, power brakes. That's factory air conditioning, but the air conditioning does not work currently. It's a cool truck. Like, I really like this truck. I've had it for about probably coming close to a year now, and it's a really cool truck. It's got a lot of personality. You know, it's the kind of vehicle that if you drive something like this, you better like talking to people, because every time you stop at a gas station, somebody's going to come over and ask you about the truck. So that's one of the things about dailying a vehicle like this, is you have to be tolerant to people coming up and talking to you about your vehicle, because you know, you don't see these things on the road every day. And when people do, you know, if they're interested in old cars at all, they're going to ask about it. If they just think it's cool, they're going to talk. You know, they're going to tell you about it. They're going to ask you about it. You know, there's a lot of things to it. And this truck is not. It's not a beauty queen. Like, it's got rust. It's got dents and dings and scratches. What a lot of people would call patina. And I like that, because I don't think I would want to try to daily a vehicle that is show quality kind of vehicle. And I say it's not a show truck, but I have taken it to some car shows. We won second place earlier this summer in a local car show in the stock truck class for my, I think it was like 1930 to 1960, I don't know. Anyway, I won second place in the stock truck class, because the truck is, for the most part, stock. There's no modifications to the engine. It's a stock engine, other than it's got oh, what the heck do you call those dang mufflers? It's got loud exhaust on it. Man. So the other thing about driving a daily, or driving a truck like this that's for a daily, especially when it comes to wintertime, is an old carbureted V8 takes a long time to warm up compared to your modern aluminum block 4-cylinder, or even an aluminum block V8. Aluminum just warms up quicker, and as a result of that, the defrosters don't work as fast. And here I'm having an issue too right now. The passenger side of my windshield is nice and fog free, and the driver's side is not, because the vent that goes over to this side is not putting out as much air as the other one. And so I'm having to, oh, there we go. See it? See, when you drive an old vehicle, it's good to have a shop towel or a towel handy so you can wipe the windshield off and see where the heck you're going. So yeah, that's one of the things. Like I was saying, oh, we got a deer in the road. Hello. Hello, little guy. Little spike buck. You know, that's one of the things about driving these old vehicles. You have to be prepared for being a quart low on oil, being a quart low on transmission fluid. You know, I keep a jug of antifreeze in the back, just because you never know. These things, it's 50 years old. You know, most all the hoses and stuff on this truck have probably been replaced over the years. So hopefully we're good to go. But it's a 50-year-old truck. It's not a 2017 with a warranty left on it or anything like that. The other thing is squeaks and rattles. If you can't take like this window rattles, an aftermarket stereo. It's got 2 speakers kind of tucked up under the dash down towards the floor, so you can't really hear it all that well. Sorry, just got to defrost my windshield. You also have to be kind of mechanically inclined to drive a vehicle like this. I've driven old vehicles. I daily drove a 72 Volkswagen Beetle for a while, actually quite a long while, and you start to get an ear for the car and what it sounds like normally and what it's supposed to sound like. And if it starts to sound different, you have to listen to these old cars. And if it sounds different one morning, you got to investigate. When I first started driving this thing, the truck had sat for a while with the previous owner, and you could tell that because the body was kind of covered with like a green moss, you know, that grows on the side of a house. And let's see, what do we have? So the thermostat went bad, or was bad. And when I first got this truck, I drove it from my house to work for like 2 months before I drove it any further than that, because I was trying to work out all the bugs and see what I was going to have to fix before I could rely on this vehicle to drive me 100 miles and make it back home. So the thermostat went bad. Ended up, not only was the thermostat bad, but the radiator was completely clogged up with calcium deposits, and the truck would overheat. So I took it to the radiator shop. Normally on those old radiators, they could put it in an acid tanker and boil it out, and you're good to go. Well, I wanted to keep that old original copper or brass radiator, but it was just too clogged up. They couldn't fix it, so I ended up putting a new radiator in it. I had a power steering hose. The pressure side on the power steering hose sprung a leak, and it was shooting the power steering fluid onto the exhaust manifold, and it was like it actually was causing a little fire in there. So we had to replace that power steering hose. The other thing is this truck's got points, and we had to, you have to know how to set points and how to check that. Also, we put new plug wires, new spark plugs on it. I rebuilt the carburetor because it was just having some issues starting. Another thing about old vehicles, and this isn't every old vehicle, but anytime you have a carburetor, I've had old vans with carburetors, and this truck will occasionally have an issue when it's hot outside, that the fuel line going up to the carburetor, it vapor locks, and that's when all the fuel in the line basically boils to a point where it's no longer a liquid, it's gas. And when you go to try to start the truck, there's no gas in the carburetor because it's too hot, basically. So there's little things like that if you want a daily, an old vehicle, you kind of have to be somewhat mechanically inclined and at least be open to learning about these things. And you have to realize that it may not start every time that you go out to get in it. This morning I went out and I had to crank it a little bit longer than normal. Usually you hit the key and within a couple of seconds it fires right up once and then dies, and then you start it again and it's good to go. This morning it cranked, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 times. Crank, 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 crank. Nothing. Crank, did that like 4 or 5 times. And I thought, it might not start this morning. It finally started. Well, I'm starting to get into colder weather, so it's going to start a little differently than normal, than what I'm used to. Hold on, let's get up this hill real quick. up into the normal range. So yeah, these old cars, you got to realize that they may not start every day exactly the way that you know that they should. So you got to kind of be prepared for that. Maybe give yourself a little bit more time whenever you're leaving to go to work and stuff like that. But you know, the thing is though that makes driving something like this rewarding, in my eyes anyway, is that nobody else is going to have something like this most of the time sitting in the parking lot when you pull into work. You know, pulling into work right now, we got a new F250, a Jeep Cherokee, a newer one, and a Ford Fusion. And I'd have to say that I have the coolest vehicle sitting out here right now, you know. So that's kind of like the trade-off, you know. There's a lot of little things that you have to kind of be aware of and kind of inconveniences. I'm sure these guys had a nice warm ride to work this morning. Their defroster worked. They didn't have any issues starting their vehicle. But, you know, I don't know. I like driving these old trucks and old cars. They're easier to work on. It's not that you can't work on the newer stuff. I know plenty about working on the newer stuff. I've got a scan tool at home. I work on the wife's minivan and all that stuff, and so it doesn't bother me as far as that goes. But the older stuff, it's pretty basic, and if you know the basics of how this stuff works, you can take care of it, and it's not that big of a deal. But just realize that it's not like driving, you know, something like that. You're gonna have to know what you're doing, and at least if you don't know what you're doing, you have to at least be open to learning. And that's the thing. There's so many resources for these old vehicles. You can learn how to do a lot of this stuff really easily, and you know, basic set of tools, you can take care of things. But she's pretty good looking. I like her. Anyway, that's a little bit on what it's like to daily drive a 50-year-old truck. Anyway, see you guys later. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer.